She ran a school, not because she had a title, not because anyone elected her, and certainly not because she was the kindest, smartest, or most talented girl there. She ran it because she acted like she was supposed to. Regina George is fictional, but the psychology behind the way she operated is uncomfortably real. And today, we're not here to cancel Regina. We're not here to defend her either. We're here to do something much more useful: understand her. Because hidden inside Regina George's ruthless, calculated, and sometimes downright cruel playbook is a collection of lessons about power, perception, confidence, and human psychology that most people are never formally taught, but somehow, everyone around. So, let's break it down. Welcome, or welcome back. If you're new here, this is where we take pop culture, turn it inside out, and examine what's happening underneath, the psychology, the power dynamics, and the uncomfortable truths. And Regina George might be one of the most fascinating case studies of all. Let's start with the most important thing Regina understood. Reality doesn't control people nearly as much as perception does. Think about it. Regina wasn't the smartest girl at North Shore High. She wasn't the most talented. And kindness certainly wasn't her defining quality. By most traditional standards, she shouldn't have been the most influential person in the school. But she was. Completely. Because Regina understood something that politicians, executives, celebrities, and social strategists have understood for generations. If you control how people perceive you, you influence how they treat you. And if you influence how they treat you, you influence the entire room. Regina built her image almost like a brand. Her clothes. Her friends. Where she sat. Who she talked to. What she laughed at. What she ignored. What she considered beneath her. Nothing seemed random. Every detail communicated the same message. I set the standard. Everyone else measures themselves against me. And people did. Now, the lesson isn't that you should become fake or manipulate your image. The lesson is to become intentional. Most people simply move through life and allow everyone else to decide who they are. Regina did the opposite. She actively shaped the story people told about her. And that kind of control over perception is a form of power almost anyone can develop. Now let's look at one of Regina's most subtle strategies. She made people come to her. Think about the plastics table. Think about the burned book. Think about the way Regina gave compliments. She didn't constantly hand out approval. She gave it selectively. Sometimes warmly. Sometimes unexpectedly. Sometimes not at all. And psychologically, that creates something powerful. Scarcity. When something is constantly available, we tend to value it less. But when something feels rare, difficult to obtain, or uncertain, we start wanting it more. Regina understood this instinctively. Her approval was limited. So receiving it felt like an accomplishment. And when people believe they've earned something, they often work much harder to keep it. That's why people chased Regina. She didn't need to chase them. She had created a social environment where everyone else was competing for her attention. Now, obviously, the healthy lesson isn't to become emotionally unavailable or cruel. It's simpler than that. Stop giving unlimited access to your time, attention, and energy to people who don't value it. Your attention has value. Next comes the burned book. On the surface, it's just a collection of cruel gossip. But psychologically, there was something else happening. Regina was collecting information. Secrets. Insecurities. Relationships. Weaknesses. Social dynamics. And information has always been one of the oldest forms of leverage. We're obviously not suggesting you create your own burn book. The useful principle underneath it is this. People who pay attention usually understand the room better. Most people move through social situations on autopilot. They don't notice what makes someone insecure. They don't recognize what another person desperately wants. They don't remember small details. They don't connect patterns. Regina did. She knew who liked whom. She knew who felt threatened. She knew exactly where someone's confidence was fragile. And she knew when to push. That level of awareness can be incredibly powerful. Remove the cruelty, and the lesson becomes surprisingly healthy. Know your environment. Pay attention to people. Listen carefully. Notice patterns. Because information about people, when handled ethically, is still a form of social intelligence. Now here's something people often overlook about Regina. Nobody officially gave her the throne. There wasn't an election. There wasn't an application. There wasn't a teacher saying, "Congratulations, you're now in charge." Regina simply behaved as though she already belonged at the top. And eventually, everyone else accepted that reality. This reveals one of the strangest truths about power. Power is often claimed before it is officially granted. Not always. Not everywhere. But in many social environments, the person who naturally takes the lead is simply the person who acts like they're allowed to. Regina didn't wait until she felt completely ready. She didn't wait for permission. She didn't wait for someone else to tell her she was important. She acted first. And confidence, even performed confidence, has a powerful psychological effect. People often follow certainty before they follow competence. The healthy version of this is simple. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission to become the person you want to be. Stop waiting until you're perfectly qualified. Stop waiting until you're completely confident. Sometimes you build confidence by stepping forward first. In many rooms, the person setting the tone is simply the person who decides to set it. Now here's one of Regina's most counterintuitive traits. She was comfortable being disliked. Think about what happened after the burned book was exposed. The school turned against her. People were angry. Her reputation collapsed. Yet somehow, Regina remained impossible to ignore. And this points toward another uncomfortable psychological truth. Being disliked isn't always the opposite of influence. Being irrelevant is. Regina was never irrelevant. Even when people hated her, they talked about her. They thought about her. They watched her. They obsessed over her. She occupied space in their minds. And that's an important distinction. Trying desperately to make everyone like you can make you incredibly forgettable. Because when you're constantly adjusting yourself to fit everyone else's expectations, you can lose the thing that makes you distinctive. The goal isn't to become hated. The goal is to become authentic enough that you don't need universal approval. You don't have to make yourself smaller just to remain comfortable for everyone else. Because sometimes, being memorable requires having an actual point of view. And then we reach the principle that connects almost everything Regina did. She rarely appeared to need anything from anyone. Not permission. Not reassurance. Not approval. Not acceptance. She projected an almost extreme level of self-sufficiency. And psychologically, that is powerful. Because need is visible. When people sense that you desperately need their approval, attention, affection, or acceptance, the power dynamic changes. They become the person with something you want. You become the person waiting to receive it. Regina rarely positioned herself that way. When she gave someone attention, it felt like she was choosing to give it. That made her attention feel valuable. But here's where we need to separate the useful lesson from the toxic one. Regina wasn't actually secure. The movie makes that painfully obvious. Her obsession with appearance, her fear of losing status, her need to control people, and the way she reacted to threats all reveal deep insecurity underneath the performance. So yes, the appearance of confidence can influence people. But eventually, the performance becomes exhausting. The healthier goal is not to pretend you need nobody. It's to genuinely become less dependent on outside validation. Build a relationship with yourself where compliments feel good, but aren't necessary. Where rejection hurts, but doesn't destroy you. Where someone else's approval is appreciated, but doesn't determine your worth. That's real confidence. Not Regina's brittle, defensive version of power. The real thing. And the real thing is available to you. So here's the final word on Regina George. She wasn't a good person. Her behavior was manipulative. Her cruelty hurt people. And the movie never asks us to ignore that. But Regina was effective at understanding certain psychological dynamics. She understood perception. She understood scarcity. She understood attention. She understood social information. She understood confidence. She understood the power of presence. And she understood that desperate need for approval can weaken your position. You don't need manipulation. You don't need to destroy other people to rise. You don't need to make everyone beneath you feel small. What you do need is to stop shrinking yourself. Stop constantly auditioning for approval. Stop waiting for someone else to validate your potential. Stop waiting for someone to hand you a crown. Because confidence isn't always something you receive. Sometimes, it's something you decide to wear. Regina George walked into every room as though the crown already belonged to her. The question is, what's stopping you from finally owning your own?